Okay, Geraldo, there's no musical intro today because we need to talk about something. Now, we've seen Star Wars get beat by two low-budget horror movies. I believe it's The Backrooms and Obsession, I believe it's called. So, we need to talk about what's going on with Star Wars right now. Because Mandalorian and Grogu, I did a video on it the other day, but this doesn't seem to be just a one-off, Star Wars, they made a bad movie, they diluted the fan base, who knows what else happened. But I need to talk about what actually is going on with Star Wars. What killed Star Wars? I mean, think about this. A decade ago, even when these were coming out, look, I want to talk about this. Even when The Last Jedi was coming out, people didn't like the movie, but they were still going to see episode 9. And you might say, oh, but they're the episodes, they're different. People still went and saw these. These were still commercially successful. So what's happened with Star Wars from there to right now? And it's stuff like this that I think is the issue. Because, yeah, I'm jumping straight into this one. I know I haven't done like a big intro. I'm just jumping straight in. But I just want to get straight to this because this is what's really concerning. Stuff like this, even though it's a spin-off, you can say, oh, it's in the same universe, it's with Han Solo. You might say Solo was a commercial success when it got to streaming. People did stream it. But it's not as big as it could have been. And the reason for this is that, most people would have preferred to see Harrison Ford back. Even if, yes, he killed him off in whatever episode it was, but people want to see Han Solo. They didn't want to see this thing here. They didn't want to see, oh, let's say his younger years, a throwback. People would have still preferred seeing Harrison Ford in that movie. And yes, there's other stuff out there that people say like Endor is like really good. People say that, oh, the TV show Mandalorian and Grogu, the Mandalorian was great up to season 2 and then season 3 polarized the whole audience and they lost us in season 3. This is a bigger trend with Star Wars. When you take away the aura of Star Wars, think about it this way. Up till about Disney Plus, till Disney Plus launched, yes, you had TV shows there like the Clone Wars. I'm not saying you didn't have like TV shows there. You had Clone Wars. Did they make a New Republic TV show as well? I'm not sure. But yes, you had basically TV shows always there, but they were always like animated. They weren't done as live action. And then you start incorporating like, Boba Fett and all that into Disney Plus as, oh, here's a TV show. Go and watch 10 different episodes of it. It dilutes the movies. It dilutes the episodes. This is what has killed Star Wars. Too much gives the audience... Look, it's too much research. It's the same shit we're seeing with the MCU, where you have to go and research 400 different movies now because they've connected the Netflix stuff in there. They've connected the ABC US stuff in there, the Jessica Joneses and all that. They've connected all of this other stuff into what the canon is now. They've put, I mean, I did like Blade is connected to it, but, if you want to go back and watch Blade's backstory before Deadpool and Wolverine, you need to go and watch Deadpool and Wolverine now. If you're watching the Tobey Maguire, that, I know a lot of people have seen Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. I think we've all probably seen them, but hey, now they're connected because of the No Way Home sort of thing. There is all these sort of things, and, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., that's the ABC US show I'm trying to think of, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is kind of half there. They're not really incorporating Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. into there yet, but they could very well throw the switch and incorporate that in. This is what happens when you absorb things into canon, and it screws the timeline. Now, you might say Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. were always operating in the same universe as the Avengers. They just didn't say Avengers because they couldn't. I get it. I get that. But when you start saying, oh, now Punisher and Daredevil and all that are in this shared universe now, and yes, you could go and watch the ones that came on Netflix before, but here's a new take on it. Like, I'm cool. I want to see the war. I want to see the Punisher. I want to see what they do with the Punisher. But also, when you do too much research, when you put too much research there to actually get into a movie, it becomes too hard to follow. And that is what you're seeing with Star Wars, where if I want to go and see Mandalorian and Grogu, let's just say, look, I have not watched anything beyond season 1 of The Mandalorian. There, I've said that. So, if I wanted to go and see this movie in the cinemas, I'm saying if I want to go and see it right now in the cinemas, I have to do 2 seasons of research to go and see it. There is your problem. If you're going to put a movie in cinemas, make it standalone or make it an episode. Make it something that is cinematic so the cinema fans say, hey, you know what? I did see episode 9 and it was a bit polarizing, but I do want to see episode 10 because they keep talking about this new trilogy. Look, there's many ways they can do this, but when you put The Mandalorian and Grogu in cinemas, and people still haven't watched the third season, people may not have even watched the second season like myself, I'm not going to go and see a movie where I'm not going to know what's going on because I didn't watch the last 2 seasons because I don't want to watch a Disney Plus show for 12 episodes or whatever it is. It might be 10 episodes or 8 episodes. Who knows how long those seasons are now. But back in the day, we didn't have this problem. Star Wars was self-contained. 6 movies. You know, everyone knew the movies. You know, you had the Phantom Menace. You had, what is the second one? Attack of the Clones. You had Revenge of the Sith. You know, then the original trilogy, you had A New Hope. Obviously, you have Empire Strikes Back, and then Jedi. You know, the movies were self-contained. You could watch the original trilogy, you could watch the prequel trilogy, and then when the sequel trilogy came along, even though a lot of people didn't like it, you could watch the sequel trilogy if that's your thing. But what I'm saying is, when you start not self-containing them and start spilling onto Disney Plus, and it's like, oh, well, to understand this movie, you got to go and watch Disney Plus's shows first. And hey, you're not going to understand what happens on the Avengers if you haven't watched Echo, or who knows if Echo's going to be plugged into anything. Or, you know, if you want to watch Miss Marvel, or what's it called? The Marvels, when it came out. Hey, you better go and watch Miss Marvel before you watch this show. And yes, you can go in blind and not watch that show. They do make it a bit more forgiving if you haven't watched it, but it's more encouraged to go and watch that show. This killed Star Wars, it killed the MCU, and it's killing everything when they try to put a film in cinemas. That's why The Backrooms is beating Star Wars in the cinemas. It's why Obsession is beating Star Wars in the cinemas. It has nothing to do with, people didn't like Season 3. It has nothing to do with, the episodes ruined the fan base and mistrust in Star Wars now. People will go and see Star Wars. I'm just saying that. People will go and watch Star Wars. It doesn't matter how bad you screw over the fan base, people will go and watch Star Wars. But they're not going to see Mandalorian and Grogu. Why? Because there's too much research to do for it. And yes, you might be the biggest fan of Star Wars and say, I watched all the Mandalorian, so I know what's going on. Cool. You're in the portion of fan base that watches everything on Disney Plus. Cool. Cool, that's you. What I'm saying is the average film fan is not going to sit there and watch 30 hours of television to go and watch a 2-hour movie. They're not going to do that research. If they say, oh, well, I do want to go and see Mandalorian and Grogu, but, I have to watch 30 hours of research before it. I might just go and watch this horror movie instead. Hey, this horror movie is pretty good. Or, hey, this horror movie is shite from what I've heard. Hey, but people are still going to see it. Because it's standalone. Because you don't have to do a bunch of research to understand the universe. Just saying that. So what's going on with Star Wars is not self-contained. And sorry, I know this is becoming a bit of a rant and confrontational, but I have to address it. Star Wars lost its aura the moment they put it on Disney Plus. The moment when they started putting TV shows, live action TV shows that you have to watch to understand everything else. See, if you're going to do something like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. like the MCU did, or like Marvel did, have it away from the MCU. Don't try to incorporate it in the canon later like they did with Jessica Jones and The Punisher and Daredevil and all these other stuff. Don't try to incorporate it later. Have it as a standalone. If you want to bring in The Punisher and all that later, say, hey, we're using the same actor, but you don't have to watch that other stuff. We're going to reboot it, essentially. And cool, you can have backstory there if you did watch those stories. I think they did that with Daredevil. I haven't watched the Daredevil seasons yet. I haven't watched them. But I believe they did some of that. But this is where the problem comes. It's like if DC came out and said, hey, if you want to watch Superman, you need to go and watch all the Smallville. Or hey, if you want to go and watch Batman, no, there's no real Batman TV shows, which kind of sucks. Yeah, go and watch the animated Batman, because that's the one we're following. They do need to cast Jensen Ackles in that one. I think he'll make a good Superman. Batman, I mean, he's basically playing Soldier Boy. He's basically playing a version of Captain America, so, in The Boys, so that's pretty cool. I think Jensen could play a good Batman. But what I'm saying is, when you make people research and saying, oh, well, and this is why the DCU is in the shape it's in. Yes, they've just relaunched with Superman. James Gunn's got this whole vision. I really hope they don't say, hey, you've got to play the video games or you're not going to understand the next movie. Or, hey, you better go and watch that TV show or you're not going to understand the next Supergirl or whatever. No, leave the cinema alone. Let the cinema be the cinema. Let the TV be the TV. It's why when DC was going at its peak, or like, not at its peak, it was never up to the standard of Marvel in the 2000s, but when you saw DC really failing at the cinemas. The DCU was failing at the cinemas. Even though, yes, they were doing successful, they were doing numbers, but they weren't as big as they should have been. Why do you think the Arrowverse was killing it on TV? Now, you might say Arrowverse wasn't as big as it was. People were watching the Arrowverse. People were talking about the Arrowverse. People were speculating about the Arrowverse. I think Arrow kind of got a bit stale after season 3 when they did Deathstroke. But what do I know? But also, you know, it kept going for 8 more seasons. I did like Ra's al Ghul in there and all that. Like, it was good. It was nice. But also, League of Assassins in there. Definitely, it was good to see League of Assassins. The Flash as well. Flash was also really good. But then it just became rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. Alright, I think I've got a bit of a flu. But anyways, back to Star Wars. If you want to do TV shows for Star Wars, and you need to use these characters, if you must use Han Solo, you've killed Han Solo off, so then do this as a Disney Plus show. Don't do it as a movie. There you go, you've got a TV show. Book of Boba Fett. Boba Fett is kind of connected to the episodes, but I can understand that one being a TV show. I can understand because it's not going to lead to a movie. Mandalorian and Grogu never should have been a movie. Or, if the intention was to always do it as a movie, don't do a bunch of seasons. Do season 1, wait for 5 years, do the movie. And have it fulfill something. To say, like, hey, if you never watched the TV show, come watch this movie. We'll fill you in. You don't have to come in with any understanding. It's just a space opera, you know? It's just space opera. Come and watch it. That's how they could have done it. And this is why Star Wars is so screwed. Because back in the day, you had episodes. You knew the cinema episodes. You're like, oh, you know, they got Clone Wars, but I don't have to watch Clone Wars to understand episode 3. You know, I don't have to understand New Republic to go and watch The Last Jedi or Force Awakens. I don't need to do the research. I can just go in as a film fan and say, oh, it's a Star Wars movie. Cool. With Mandalorian and Grogu, they've tried to flip the formula. Hey, go and watch this TV show for 3 seasons, 30, 40 hours of TV, and then come back and watch this movie. Well, people aren't doing it, and it shows. So, yeah. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. I will put a couple end screens right here. You can watch them all. What do you guys think about Star Wars? Is it in bad shape? Or am I just kind of like ranting for the sake of ranting? Do I have any valid points in this video? Let me know. Because, honestly, Star Wars shouldn't be in this bad of a shape. And I'm interested to know what you guys think. So, yeah, watch the end screens, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.